Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Now I get it.
We've had a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams. Don't.
Wait, you said tip.
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off session.
This is a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
And hoy hoy to one and all. Welcome to another. One and all. It is another episode of Your Dog Companion. I just said this a few seconds ago. Maybe you've seen it once, and if you have and you're seeing it again, well, hang tight. We'll catch up in just a second here. But it is the 27th of October, and this is episode number 166. We are inside the nurturing biosphere of the mothership with Becca, Shoopy, Ashley, and me. And very glad to be with you all today here in the D. It is a sunny day after having big rain this weekend. It's nice and sunny today. And the temperature is somewhat mild. This bitch of a summer is finally about to give it up. And we got a little bit better weather today. That's neat. We also have a very, very interesting, I think, show with a very, very interesting cat. This guy's name is Raymond Foster. And he joins us today from somewhere out in California, I believe. Where you at, Raymond?
Well, I'm deep underground in a command post about 30 miles east of Los Angeles.
Boy, it looks that way too. That's cool. I wish I had that.
Yeah.
Instead of just a regular, spare bedroom, converted into a makeshift studio.
It looks great.
Where east of Los Angeles?
So I'm in the town of San Dimas, which is about 30 miles east of Los Angeles, just nestled against the foothills and just on the edge of what we call the Inland Empire, the San Bernardino Riverside area.
Ah, the famed Inland Empire.
That's where I live.
Is it really an empire?
Well, it shifts depending on who you're talking to. Sometimes they want to be in the empire. Sometimes they don't want to be in the empire. But there's a lot of sand out there. I'll tell you that.
Well, Raymond's got a very interesting story we're going to talk to him about. He's had a rather interesting 2 careers and a very interesting life. But first, I want to get into a little bit about how you wound up here on Your Dark Companion. Now, normally, when we're in the course of getting people to come on Your Dark Companion, we approach them with the idea. We talk to them about it. And we've been very fortunate. Now, Shoopy can elaborate further on this because he helps out with this.
I try to.
But we've been very fortunate. Most of the people that we've tried to get on Your Dark Companion have been very gracious and very willing, and in numerous cases, even eager to come on here with us. There have been a few that weren't so keen on the idea, therefore they did not come on. But for the most part, people have been very gracious with their time, very willing and very accommodating, and we appreciate that. But Usually it's about us approaching them and us finding them. With you, Raymond, it's the other way around. You knew about us, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I reached out to you as part of. I'm essentially on a virtual world tour. I've written 9 books, and 2 of them, the one we're going to talk about, came out in September, but the other one came out in August. And the plan was this virtual world tour, and so I've done podcasts in the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Australia, here in the States, and I have a list now of about 700 podcasts I've reached out to. But in each one of them, I do something unique, which is I I take my general podcast pitch, I put it to artificial intelligence, and I say, pitch this podcast, pitch this program to this podcast. I put your website in or information I have about your website, and so it tailors it to language that you would understand, language that you would find interesting, and therefore my hit ratio is extraordinarily higher than it might normally be.
And it worked pretty well.
Did work
Yeah.
pretty well.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
our boss Becca was like, "Hey, what'd you get this guy on?" And I said, "Okay." And then we hooked up, and it was glorious.
Well, that's
Certainly not
yes.
gonna
If you can speak someone's language, I mean, about half of the battle is over with on selling anything, right?
Oh, probably to a very large degree. Yeah, that's probably about half of it. You've had a very interesting scene. And why don't you tell us what I guess you've had 2 separate careers. If you
Well,
want to-
I went back to school working on my 4th career. I've retired 3 times. The first time I retired was 22 years ago. I retired from the Los Angeles Police Department as a police lieutenant. And I retired around the same time my first textbook came out, and I went to work teaching at university. I taught at a couple of universities for about 8, maybe 9 years, and then started doing consulting. I went overseas and for some reason developed a specialty in Caribbean government. So I lived in the Caribbean for a couple of years. And then when I came back after the last gig, something happens as you get older. You become less attractive as a contractor because even though I have 50 years of experience, there are men 25 years younger than I am who have 25 years of experience. And so I just noticed a real decrease in the number of contracts I was getting. So I decided, well, let's do something different. Let's find a way to do something different. And ultimately, what I would decide to do is take a job as an Uber driver with the idea of writing a book about it.
Now, do you understand what he's talking about here, folks? Yeah. Police officer, Uber driver. We're going to talk to him about how you get from one to the other and the differences therewith, because probably in either one you see a lot of very, shall we say, interesting, perhaps even unsettling things.
Well, that was indeed. In fact, this book I've been working on. I started on this book 10 years ago. It took 5 years. I started collecting the stories. The first story was great, but I do 1,000 rides. I did 2,000 rides. At some point, I started chasing the next story. I started driving later at night, started taking riskier and riskier things that I would see what would happen next. And then the pandemic hit and driving stopped. I'd driven 10,000 rides. So I started to, I transcribed the stories. I started to put them together. And quite frankly, Mike, the first pass of the book was garbage. It was 100,000 words of trash. I'm like, okay, well, this is a nightmare. So I took an axe to it and I started hammering away, and I worked on it for about a year, and it was still trash. And I was working on this other book. And so I just focused on the one book. It was an academic book. I focused on that. I finished that one in January, but I didn't have a title for it. So while it's sitting there, I said, well, let's go back to the surge here. And it dawned on me what I had done wrong. And what I had done wrong was I was the story, just as you captured it right then. I was the police lieutenant who, in the police department, our job is to respond to people who are in crisis and to find a solution and then to implement the solution. And Mike, if you didn't like the solution, we were going to make you do it anyway. And that's what the police do. But if you're the Uber driver, I mean, you can see the problem, you can come up with a solution, but you can't make nobody do nothing. So I had to develop a whole new set of skills. as an individual. And so I became the story in Chasing the Surge, 10,000 Rides into the American Night. And that's really chronicling my change as an individual and what I saw along the way in humanity.
Now let's start with your days on the force. Were you just like a regular cop on the beat, cop in the car, or exactly what was your life like? What was your work life like when you were
Well,
on the force?
I started as I started as a slick sleeve police officer in Newton Division. I did my probation there, and I went over to Southwest. And that's everything. I worked most of my career on graveyard shift and in what we call South Central Los Angeles. And so I did 5 years in patrol right around the USC area and south of there. And then I had read the book The Blue Knight, and I wanted to walk a foot beat. So I applied to Central Division, and I walked I walked Fifth Street between Broadway and Spring, 1 block on graveyard shift. And I was king of that 1 block of the whole city. And even on the graveyard shift, there'd be 1,000 people milling around in that block downtown. And so I did that. I got promoted to sergeant, went back down into South LA, worked Watts proper for a while. I was a sergeant for about 10 years. And then decided one day, actually, I remember the day I'd been a sergeant about 5 years. It was my 33rd birthday, and we were in the 4th Street Saloon. And my best friend said, you're 33 today. She says, Alexander the Great conquered the known world when he was 33. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence when he was 33. Jesus Christ died for your sin when he was 33. What exactly are you going to do with your life? And that really hit me hard. And I went back to school and I promoted to lieutenant. And that really changed the course of my life in a different direction. So yeah, I was a cop for 24 years.
And then that left you where?
I landed at one university as the department chair for the criminal justice program. It's called the Union Institute University. It's now 20 years later defunct. And I taught at Cal State Fullerton and Cal State Fresno. I continued to write and to teach. I finished my master's degree, entered a PhD program. I was going to become an academic, I think. And then I got an offer to go to Jamaica to write an anti-gang strategy for the entire country. And I thought, well, who's going to pass up a year living in Jamaica? And so here I was on a third career, which is as an international justice consultant type guy. So I lived in Jamaica, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Barbados for about 2 years. Traveled back and forth between the countries, continued to write. And at the same time, I'm a Freemason. I'm the president of the Rotary Foundation. I'm the chair of the board of directors of our Chamber of Commerce. I used to be the Boy Scout leader. I got 5 children and 9 grandchildren. So I'm just a busy guy. And so here I am now taking a virtual world tour, talking about essentially 2 books, but one of the other books has also gotten kind of a renaissance, a halo effect out of it. So kind of 3 books at one time.
First of all, just let me say one thing.
Yeah.
That one thing is, God, man, what have you not done?
You've done just about everything, haven't you?
My grandfather was a World War I veteran. He was a doughboy. And he told me a long time ago, he says, you live your life to be the man other men want to be. And that's been a pretty good motto.
What's
That's been a
a
pretty good
Freemason do? I've heard the term for years, and I know I could just Google it, but if we have an actual Freemason on, I'd like to know what that does.
Well, okay. So, in fact, that was the book that came out in August. It's called The Temple Within, and it's an academic look and talk about Freemasonry. So Freemasonry is a philosophical society and a fraternity that teaches a moral science that lead for self-improvement for men. It can trace its lineage back in its current state about 600 years, and then as an organization to a moment in 1717 in London when it's formally founded. And then we chase our genealogy organizationally all the way to the present. I am a past master of my lodge. It means I was elected by the men to lead it for a year. And I'm also now the officer's coach. And so my job is to teach the ritual, the first, second, and third degree ritual to the officers themselves. And the ritual that we use to exemplify the moral science is the inner apprentice, the fellow craft, the master mason degrees. And the first two are about an hour and a half morality play. So my job is to know every line of every person in that play. And then the third degree is about a 2-hour play. And so I learned that. I've learned that. I teach that. And so that absorbs, I don't know, 60% of my life probably is working on all things Masonic. And so I can answer any questions about Freemasonry. That I'd be very honest about that.
That's pretty awesome because I recognize the symbol as I'm looking it up on Wikipedia. But yeah, I definitely thought it had something to do with stonework, which I know that's masonry. But I thought Freemasons were like super awesome at masonry.
Look, it actually traces its history back to the stonemasons guilds. It goes back and further that to the Collegia of Rome. And the colleges of Rome were the first guilds that we know of in history. They were corporations, really. And so there was a thing called the Collegia Faborum, which was the builders, and they traveled with the Roman army. So they're all over the Mediterranean and Europe, building fortifications and roads and things like that. And so you could trace the history of architecture very clearly. And then about 600 years ago, the philosophy itself, it begins, if stonemasons are a huge tree with deep roots, the philosophy is the vines of other philosophies that have attached themselves to it. And if you pick those vines apart, one day you could be picking on Buddhism, you could be picking on Stoicism, you'll find Christianity over here. So that's really what Freemasonry is.
All right, so you've got that. You got a long career on the force, and you retired from that, right?
Yes, correct.
Could you just not stay retired, or did you have to? Are you one of these guys that has to be doing something?
Kind of like him.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I
right there with you.
When I was a police sergeant, I found something out. When policemen get bored, they get creative, and when they get creative, they get in trouble. So I keep myself busy to keep myself out of trouble. How's that sound?
Okay, that'll work. So, what drove you to driving Uber?
So I'm a great technical writer, an academic writer. I'm good at it, but I suck at fiction, and I want to write fiction. And so I decided I would find a way to teach myself fiction. And my idea was if I collected stories, that gave me the opportunity to set scenes and to recreate dialogue. And that's the essence of fiction. And, you know, I really want to, I can write all the academic works I want, but we impart our great ideas onto each other through stories. And so I wanted to become a really good fiction writer, a storyteller, because there's some ideas I want to make sure I leave behind.
Now, I'm kind of fascinated with this because there is a certain part of me who fancies the idea of being an Uber driver as well. Everybody in here is laughing at this.
Well, because we've seen you drive.
But there's a certain part of me that fancies the idea of that. And I'll bet the part that appeals to me is one of the things that I don't know if it appealed to you from the very start, but I'll bet it does now. And that's the stories you hear. You know, when you get these people in your car, and sometimes they'll start talking.
Well, it wasn't just the talking; it was the things they did, and everything from. So there's one story I have here I can read to you that my wife says she loves this story, and it really exemplifies what went on in the car. It'll just take a moment. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
All right. As I pull to the curb, I see them waiting. 2 full-sized cats, a male and a female, fur covered from the neck down, each holding the oversized costume head of their feline persona under one arm. I can't help but notice they seem domesticated. She's wearing a fuzzy pink collar. His paws are crossed, tail wrapped around one leg like he's guarding a secret. I check the name on the app and nod politely. They slide into the back seat and we're headed to West Covina. The cabin fills with soft fur and the lingering scent of vanilla or maybe bubblegum. Hard to tell. The radio hums classic rock at a respectful volume, and I don't say a word. I'm quiet. They're quiet. And after my last ride to the Fairplex, I've learned not to make assumptions or ask or to open with raccoon jokes. 10 minutes in, just as I'm thinking maybe this will be a silent trip, the male cat breaks the quiet. I saw you with the squirrel, he says, his voice low and measured, like a jazz bassett accusing a trumpet player of showboating. She huffs. We were just talking. Her tone carries the same dismissive grace as a cat knocking a glass off a table. I saw you stroking his tail, he replies, a bit more edge now, claws just beginning to show. It was very plush, she says without apology. He leans forward slightly. His tail? What's wrong with my tail? The hurt is real now, curled up in the corner of his voice. There's a pause, and then she purrs, not literally, but close. Your tail is much longer. I stare straight ahead. I don't even glance at the rearview mirror. I can't risk seeing something that'll make me laugh out loud or end up in therapy. I focus on the road signs like they're sacred texts. 3 minutes, I pull into the quiet West Covina complex. They get out, tails swaying behind them, walking up the path, paw in paw. 2 heartbroken house cats trying to stitch things up before Sunday night. I exhale. So all kinds of weird shit happened in the car.
I was asking if they were furries.
Yeah.
They were furries. That's right. They were coming from a furry convention. And on the ride there, I had never heard of a furry convention, and I picked up a raccoon that was going there. And that's the story just before that leads into this. And the raccoon, he says, I bet you don't get many raccoons in the car. And I said, oh yeah, of the animal kingdom, raccoons are the best riders. I think it's their paws, I tell him. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. And he tells me all about furries, and I have no idea what they are. And then I Google it, right? And after he gets out, and I find a Wikipedia page, but then I find a Men's Health article about how they have sex in their costumes. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then the next ride is away from the conventions, the 2 cats. So that kind of takes the story apart there. So yeah, all kind guys with guns got into the car, people with guns, a guy did a crime and used the Uber as a getaway car. All kinds of weird stuff went down when I drove at night.
I'd say of all Uber drivers, you're probably one of the worst ones to get.
Well, as far as yes and no. I think that I was being a witness. I wasn't trying to book anybody or bust anything. I wanted to witness what happened. I wanted the story. So that was one of the stories.
Is the mantra of Uber drivers to not talk to your riders, or is there any kind of guidelines that you guys have to follow, or that they recommend that you follow as far as
Mike,
on the car?
When I started driving Uber, it was brand new in 2015. Okay, so it was brand new. There were no rules. I don't know, and I stopped at 25 years ago. And I got to tell you, they say there is rules now, like you can select whether or not you want to have the driver to be quiet or whatever. There's no rule. There were no rules. We were making the rules up. I eventually make a rule up. Nobody gets in the front seat. I hated that with a passion. I hated pool riders. The pool riders were awful. There was just a lot of stuff that was, people abused it. They abused the driver. A lot of times you were just a piece of furniture to them. And that was another thing, from being, I'm a well-respected academic in my field, and then to get treated like you're the doorstop, I had to get used to that.
Wow. So, do you still do that today? Are you still?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. I was joking around that I would put a box of books in the trunk and then drive around and sell them to people. But no, I'm not. No, I don't. I haven't driven in 5 years. I focus on the writing, and all that good stuff.
like I say, I flirt with this idea. I know I'll never do it, but there's a part of me that finds it kind of appealing because I used to watch that HBO show Taxi Cab Confessions, you know.
Yes.
And that made it seem like a really fun scene.
It's very similar, but you know, there's a well, I had a you go through a series when you write a book, you have editors, and one of the editors wrote that there's a part in the middle of the book where it at least slows down, right, and it's really slow, and it's just kind of mundane stories. And he says, well, you know, this really slowed down here for probably 20 pages, and I said, yeah, I intentionally did that because most of Uber's boring. And if you got a taste of what boring is, there you go, buddy. That's what I was trying to do, was give the reader a little bit of an experience of, this is kind of, oh, I hate this. I don't like this. This is boring. This is work. It wasn't all excitement.
Were you ever did you ever pick up a guy that like scared you or anything like that, or somebody that you just knew was very, very shady?
Well, I had a guy sitting next to me in the front seat, had a gun in his waistband. A gang member. Picked up lots of gang members in the middle of the night. One guy was doing re-ups. That's in the book. The gun in the waistband's in the book. The guy's doing re-up. He's re-upping. He's driving around with a backpack of drugs, and he's resupplying his street dealers. And at one point, like the third drop, I go, hey buddy, I said, I'm not getting paid enough to do your re-ups. And he looks at me and he says, well, how much is enough? And I said, look, do I look like I do very well in prison? And he starts laughing. He goes, no. And he goes, then we're not doing this. But that's what we were doing. So there was all kinds of stuff. But remember, I'm now driving on the edge of Los Angeles and deep into Los Angeles. And I'm doing it late at night intentionally because, well, freaks come out at night. What can I say?
Yeah. Like I say, this is what one of the things that appeals to me about it. If you're going to do it, then let's get some stories out of it. I don't know. It just seems like it would be a good source of that.
Yeah, that's the right book for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could. To distill it down to the book's about 60,000 words. So from 100,000 to 60,000, it's pretty tightly written. I also adopted a film noir voice, which I really enjoyed writing in. In fact, one reviewer said it was Raymond Chandler meets the gig economy. And I thought that was a really good compliment. So that's what I was trying to do with it. I had fun with it once I got into understanding what I was writing. That was the important part. In the introduction, though, I talk about, as a kid, I had careers that I wanted. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a jet pilot. Well, those are out of the question. But I also wanted to be a trash truck driver when I was like 8 years old. And I wanted to be a cab driver. And I wanted to be a movie usher because those looked like cool jobs. And so part of the motivation was, well, you know what? Taxi cab driver, this is pretty close. I want to try this. And I did.
And you did. God, that's some scene you've had in your time on the planet. All right.
It's not into anytime soon.
Let's hope.
Oh, I didn't put it up there for you.
So yeah, and so it was also, part of it is as a police officer, you're an adrenaline junkie. So I think also that came into chasing the adrenaline at night, and chasing the thrill of getting to the edge, and seeing how far down it was, and then kind of backing away. So there was some of that, and that's in the book, and I enjoyed it. And now I'm writing fiction. I've started to write a series of fiction books. And once I complete this virtual tour, the next part is the physical tour, and I'll begin to write more then. There'll be less demands on my time for this kind of thing.
This is Raymond Foster. I want to get into your fiction writing here in just a second, but right now, we must stop down for a minute. We'll have more with Raymond momentarily, but right now, it is time for the dreaded and feared mid-show read. Yes, sir. If you are going about this world and you're not feeling good, you're in pain, and you need something to help you out, but you don't know what it is, you've tried prescriptions and all that stuff. They only may have helped you out for a while, but in the end, they just made things worse. there's another way for you out there, and that is the CBD House of Healing. The CBD House of Healing. Over there, they do things all natural. Their owner is an RN, and she's there to help you. And I know this because they've helped me a couple of times now. It's not one of these places where you go in and you start looking at all the gummies and all the zigzags and whatever else they may have that attend to that end of their business. What they're all about is helping you heal naturally. And they're really, really good at it. Summer, the owner, will listen to what's going on with you, and chances are she will know what to give you to make it better. Like I say, I've done this with her a couple of times now, and both times, both of the things she gave me have helped different things that are going wrong. Now, she'll do that for me. She will do it for you. So go over there and talk to her. I mean, there's no charge here to talk to her, and it can't hurt, put it that way. It can't hurt. It can only help you out. They're at Plano Road and Northwest Highway, that burgeoning northeast quadrant of that. They are the CBD House of Healing. So go over there, tell them you heard about it from us here on Your Dog Companion, and get yourself to feeling better the natural way. All right, let's get back to our visit with Raymond Foster here. Is it Raymond or Ray?
Raymond.
Okay. All right, tell us a little bit about your fiction writing that you're into.
Well, I wrote my first fiction story, was the first thing I wrote, and it was, and we're going back 45 years ago, was rejected. I remember still got that rejection letter. It was a science fiction story, and the editor said that the story was too horrible to contemplate. So that's actually a good reaction. I've kept that.
Yeah,
that's
that's right
good.
where you want to be, isn't it?
Yeah, what was the plot?
Yeah, exactly. I want to shock you, and that was a very shocking. 45 years ago was a very shocking. Today the story is mundane because it came true. So I have begun a series of books, and they are murder mysteries, and they're called the Carter Rituals. And the first one is Murder in the Lodge, and it's a murder that occurs in a Masonic lodge in a locked room. And so I want to blend masonry with police work and see what I come up with. And that's where I'm working on right now.
How far along are you with it?
I didn't catch that, brother.
I said, how far along are you in the process of it?
Okay, so I wrote I'm pretty far along. I got the first pass at the book, and then I reread it, and quite frankly, it was just too dark, too dark. And so I'm in the process of kind of writing it and tiling it back and figuring out a little bit more about it, and trying to put less of my own anger at something that I was writing about in the work. I don't want it. I was pretty upset about something organizationally within Freemasonry, and that was coming out in the writing. And I didn't want to do that. So I'm gonna rewrite that part of it so that the plot is not so dark.
Is it hard to, like, when you have a strong opinion or strong vibes about something that you're writing about, is it hard to do it without some of that coming out?
Oh, it's probably impossible. I mean, linguistically, we select certain words and we can trigger each other right and left with words that we, intentionally or unintentionally. And so absolutely. And I'm not saying that every writer brings whatever they're working out themselves to their writing in whatever subject they're on. The other thing I've discovered about being a writer, even a technical writer, is I'm pretty sure that I only bring about 15% of the material to the experience. I think that the reader brings the other 85%. And so you bring your imagination, your context, and whatever your belief system to whatever you're reading. And that's why stories seem different to us when we read them. And so, again, when I'm reading it back to myself, I'm reading into it probably more than other people would. It's a process, and then the rewriting is easy. Rewriting is the hard work, man. That's where the work comes into play. I can struggle with a sentence.
Like, do you rewrite as you go along, or do you just do a rough draft of the whole thing, the first run through of it, and get it completed and then go back and rewrite it?
It depends. So an academic work, an academic work will be more of a write straight through on subjects, and then stitch them together and go back and write and rewrite. In the quasi fictional work, there's a lot of that just doesn't work. That scene sucks. That doesn't work. There's too much. There's too little. And there's another thing that goes on too is someday you just got to pull the trigger. You just got to go. I could still be rewriting all of the books. At some place you just got to go. All right, this is as good as this version's going to be.
Yeah.
I got in an argument with one of my publishers on a leadership book, and he wanted to do some rewriting. At first, I said okay, and then he wanted more. And finally, I sent an email that said, "Look, you're not Shyman and Schuster, and I'm not Hemingway. Let's just get this done." And so sometimes you just got to go, I'm done, finished.
Is all the editing with your books generally self-editing, or do you have someone helping you out with that? I know you said you have a publisher that seems to give their opinion, but do you have an actual editor?
Yeah, I get it. Well, the first is a pass through for me will be a grammar editor. And so this is more like the business of publishing, but so you go to a grammar editor. Now, the first thing you got to know about that is you don't want to let good grammar get in the way of good writing. The most profitable phrase of the 20th century is a split infinitive. It's grammatically incorrect. And that phrase is to boldly go, from Star Trek, to boldly go where no one's gone before. It should be to go boldly. But if you were to do it grammatically correct, it doesn't have the impact. So, you send something to a grammar person and those are important, but they're not, you reject those. And then you're going to have, sometimes I'll pay people for content readers, and I'll pay somebody $500 to read the book and give me their honest opinion about it. Right. I call those content readers. Sometimes then when you get far along in the publishing process, you're going to be formatting the book. And believe it or not, that's a lot of work. And getting your vision of what it looks like into the person who's actually doing what we call galley proofs for you is kind of which is work. And then you get a final version, and that's where you read it closely. You don't do a lot of edits then because it's expensive to do. And that's kind of the process. So yeah, you're going to go through that's after I've gone through a book. I might rewrite 5 or 6 times. It just depends. I probably got, I don't know, a whole thing on a file of writing projects. There's probably 50 projects, and I've got one up here that's well over 100,000 words on leadership. I don't know when, if it'll ever be done, but it sits there, and I work on it occasionally because it's kind of a passion. So, yeah, lots of editing goes on.
How do you stay focused long enough to write a book? I mean, I have the attention span of a 3-year-old anyway, but I love the idea of writing a book, but I know I can never pull it off. Here's
the thing, Mike. Actually, I only have one talent in life. I have one. That's it. I have no other talent. I was the first chair trumpet player in an orchestra, and I was in the military band. I was a second chair in the Coast Guard band, and I have no music. I have no musical talent. I have zero. I am not a musician. I'm a mechanic, and my one talent is I can sit still for long periods of time and do one thing. Right? That's my talent. I can stay focused on one thing for a long period of time. And so that's helped, because writing is solitaire, right? It's solitary. It's you're by yourself and you're in your own head. And so I also think that I am my own best friend in my head. So I think I'm funny. Last night I had a dream. I had dreamt I said something at a dinner party that I would think but never say out loud. And I laughed so hard I woke myself up laughing.
What did you say?
Are you gonna tell us what you said?
Yeah, you can't teach.
Sure. Well, if you want to hear it, somebody said, was at a dinner party. We're eating dinner, and somebody said, as you get older, you have to watch what you eat. And I said out loud at a dinner party, and when you're younger, you got to watch who you eat. And it's not something I would say at a dinner party, but my subconscious let that blurt out. I thought that was hilariously funny, and I walked myself up laughing. There's a lot of truth to that, right? I had that one tell him, like, I could sit in a place for a long period of time and work.
We're still recuperating from that.
Yeah, we need a moment.
Did that stop things down when you said that?
It made it
In the dream.
in the dream. Did you?
Yeah, the dream, it must have stopped things down. But I guess in the dream, you never know what it
Well, he
was.
woke himself up laughing. So.
Well, sorry, you can edit that out, I hope, or people can just pretend.
I don't
it
know what
didn't
you're
happen.
talking about.
Live.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the
not radio,
tease.
this is not TV, this is not, we are not adjudicated by the Federal Communications Commission. What stays here goes out here.
Well, and I didn't use the 7 deadly words, so and that's
Well, you can if you want.
that's writing, right? I didn't say anything pornographic, I didn't say anything vulgar, but the setup to that is just beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Oh, before you put that away, can you play us a couple notes?
No, hell no.
Damn.
I haven't played during the pandemic. I taught myself to play jazz. There's a thing called Music -1. You used to buy albums, but now you can download it, and it's all the pieces except the trumpet. And so it'd be a snare and a bass and a piano, and then I would play on top of that, and I'd play for a couple of hours at a time, and then eventually my wife would walk out and goes, "Okay, you're getting I can't tell whether it's you or the recording or you, so you're getting better." And so but I got to practice hours every day just to maintain it. I haven't played in a year, so no, I wish.
Who's some of the riders that float your boat? If you will?
What's that?
Who are some of the riders that float your boat? What riders have influenced you, if any have?
Well, okay, so yes, when I was a young man, much younger, I read everything that Alistair MacLean wrote, from Ice Station Zebra to the Guns of Navarone. These all became movies, but these were books. Force 10 from Navarone, HMS Courageous. I love him. And then I began in my sea stories phase, everything that O'Brien wrote, everything that, all of the Hornblower books, everything from that. And then Robert Ludlum. I really like reading Robert Ludlum. But I will tell you, I read, and I'm not in any way a religious person, but I read a chapter of the Bible every night, and I just keep going through it. I'm probably through my 20th pass on the damn thing. A lot of Freemasonry and our ritual lives within the King James Version of the Bible, and I find the stories fascinating. People read these stories, and I say, man, you got to read the book of Job, because it starts out with God having a staff meeting, and there's going to be a unicorn, and there's going to be a sea monster, and it's all there. And if you read the book of Acts, I mean, there's a shipwreck and a jailbreak and all kinds of stuff's going on. So if these are mythological stories that have a mythological truth, I think, that impacts the human conscience and the human condition more than we realize. And so that's probably a book that I definitely read consistently. And then lastly, I don't have it here, but I'm currently reading Plain Speaking. It was written about Harry Truman, and I've read everything ever written about Harry Truman, Winston Churchill, certain biographies. Lincoln, I love those biographies. So those where I read. That's my reading.
Why Harry Truman? That's kind of an odd one.
Harry Truman?
Yeah.
Freemason.
Well, he was a Freemason, number one, but number two is probably I'm going to say finest president we ever had. I mean, what a guy! What an incredible life anyway.
I know some people consider it that way.
What's that?
I mean, I know some people consider Harry Truman one of the best presidents we've ever had. And, to I mean, even to me, when I first heard that idea, I thought, man, that's a real outlier there. But once you learn about the guy, it's not so much. I mean, he was the right man for the right time.
He was, and everything we have. I just wrote in fact, I wrote an essay today. I published it today called "Clash of Titans," and it's about MacArthur and Truman and their clash. You know, because MacArthur will fire Truman, and they were both Freemasons, and so that clash between the two of them shapes the Cold War. That decides how the Cold War is going to be fought for the next 60, 70 years. In that April of 1950. So it's I think I think Winston Churchill's probably more fascinating than Harry Truman, but again, I got my favorites.
Who's your favorite?
Among Truman and Churchill?
No, among all of.
Yeah, favorite president.
Oh, favorite president? Probably Nixon. I'm being facetious.
Well, I got to tell you. Well, I got to tell you, with all the stuff that's gone on in the last 20 years, I think we owe Richard Nixon an apology. I really do.
You're not the first guy that I've heard say that, and I'm sort of warming to the idea. But you know, he was like the president when I was in my early 20s and everything. That was a very tempestuous time, and he was he was kind of the fall guy for that, you know.
I mean, he did also.
Well, yeah, he didn't play it straight and true once he was in office, and you know you can't do that.
He got caught.
Yeah, he got caught, but it's probably the only thing he really did wrong was get caught.
Well, you know that's been this was articulated by my oldest daughter, and it's a truism for our family. We're the people not only who get caught, but we're the ones they make the example out of. So that leads us to pretty much toe the line. We get caught and they decide to make the example out of us every time. So I'm not going to cross any lines.
Well, Raymond, we've enjoyed having you on here today, man. It's been very interesting to hear about your interesting scene over the years and what you're doing now, man. We appreciate you coming on here with us.
Well, I appreciate you. I deeply appreciate having you guys having me on, and I appreciate your art form also of the podcast. It is truly an American art form that has really developed over the last decade. So good for you.
Well, we're novices. We're working at it. We're still novices, but you know we're getting there. We appreciate it, man. Thank you a lot.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
There he is.
Let's make sure we need to plug his book again. What's it called, Raymond?
Chasing the Surge, 10,000 Rides into the American Night.
There you go.
Oh.
Chasing the Surge, 10,000 Rides into the American Night.
Get it on Amazon.
Yes. Look it up on
That's right.
Amazon and get it. All right. And do remember that you can find our stuff out there in the realm of the podcast everywhere. Wherever you get your podcasts, as they like to say. We are on Spotify. We are on YouTube, like wherever you go for them, and we would appreciate it if you check them out and tell your friends about them. Share them, get them out there, because that means everything to those of us who swim in these waters of the podcast. It's what it's all about, helping each other out. That's what we do with each other. No big, I'm better than you or anything like that going on here yet. There will be sooner or later, but right now, it's just all too new for that. So help us out by sharing us and watching. We appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right. I'm gonna go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.